Here is Immortal Moments for explanation. Friends, like videos and subscribes to our channel. Swallowed Star 2 Land of Origin Part 3 Explanation. So let's start our explanation. The Vine Jiao Legion, the Golden Jade Legion, Luo Feng side. Each legion wields a gigantic mechanical stream secret treasure. His own Showu Wings was a mechanical stream secret treasure designed for individual use. The behemoths before him were mechanical stream secret treasures designed for legions. In terms of value, they were worth far more, requiring massive numbers of true gods to operate. Mo Yu Hu explained, each of Huyang's 10 great legions is led by an eternal true god, commanding many true gods of void space and countless other true gods. With the aid of gigantic mechanical treasures, their combined strength even possesses a portion of the power that belongs to the primal chaos realm. Luo Feng nodded. His Showu Wings allowed him to control primal chaos to some extent. In terms of power, it was indeed much weaker than the Legion-class treasures. Even the most ordinary soldiers in Huyang's 10 great legions are at least at the 9th realm of true god, Mo Yu Hu remarked with emotion. The 10 great legions, together with the Huyang guards, naturally deter all within Huyang city. Luo Feng nodded slightly, then with a wave of his hand, he released the flying boat he had saved earlier, as well as the tribal clan leader and more than 10 true gods. As the clan leader and the true gods looked around and saw the towering grandeur of Huyang city in the distance, they bowed respectfully one after another. We pay our respects to the Supreme. Ahead lies Huyang city, Luo Feng said. I take it your destination is Huyang city, right? Before he rescued them, Luo Feng saw them and heard their conversation, clearly understanding that this tribal group was indeed heading for Huyang city. Yes, we were indeed planning to come to Huyang city. We thank the Supreme for saving our lives, the clan leader said. Let us part ways here. Luo Feng nodded, then immediately flew with Morosa and Mo Yu Hu directly toward the boundless and imposing east city gate of Huyang city. The clan leader and the other true gods of his tribe stood still, somewhat astonished. I thought we were going to be taken as experimental subjects. I was already prepared to be a test patient. They were all pleasantly surprised. Who wouldn't prefer freedom over being controlled? The clan leader, looking at his kin, laughed and said, we are fortunate this time to have encountered the Supreme. After entering the city, we shall first help Suo Zi and Suo Yun apply for a residence. Then we'll acquire the items our tribe needs and must leave before nightfall. Non-citizens of the city must leave before nightfall. A day in the land of origin is equivalent to about a year on Earth, so there is plenty of time for shopping. Yes, the tribe's people all responded. Suo Zi, Suo Yun, after settling in Huyang city, the city owner's mansion will collect 1 primal chaos crystal per era, and some dark forces will also charge about the same amount, the clan leader continued. Once you become true gods of void space, the city owner's mansion's fee can be waived. True gods of void space, eternal true gods, and those above are exempt from residence fees in any city, because they are the backbone of a great city's operations. After becoming true gods of void space, will those dark forces still demand benefits? Suo Zi asked. They will demand even more, said the clan leader. The longer you stay in the city, the clearer it will become that the city's governance isn't completely dictated by the city owner's mansion. Suo Zi and Suo Yun listened obediently. Enter the city, commanded the clan leader. They immediately boarded their flying boat and flew together toward the East City Gate. The East City Gate of Huyang City was towering and wide, accommodating a vast number of true gods coming and going simultaneously. There are so many cultivators from the myriad clans entering and leaving Huyang City every day, Luo Feng commented with great interest as he flew. Observing everything in one of the land of origin's large cities for the first time, Luo Feng found everything to be novel. There are even those walking. Morosa exclaimed in surprise, looking down below, where, in addition to a large number of flying boats, there were multitudes of true gods entering the city on foot. Not everyone can afford a flying boat, said Luo Feng. The spatial pressure on the land of origin is extremely strong, and true gods typically are only about 1 blade tall. Being taller would exert excessive pressure on their skeletal structure. Under such dire pressure, true gods could not fly on their own and required flying treasures. Only after reaching the void true god realm and mastering the void could one fly independently. What's that? Luo Feng looked into the distance. There, a dark cyan winged dragon was also flying toward the east city gate. Among the multitude of flying boats around, this dark cyan winged dragon was indeed conspicuous, and its aura quite formidable. That's a mechanical flow treasure, Kai Winged Dragon, operated by an elite squad of the Huyang Legion. Mo Yu, who, having lived for many years in Huyang, was familiar and said with a smile, the Kai Winged Dragon requires over 100 true gods of void space to operate it, and it demands an extremely high will from the squadron leader. With the Kai Winged Dragon, they can even contend against an eternal true god and are extremely adept at swift flying. Luo Feng nodded in understanding. The military might of Yu Kingdom was indeed strong. Wherever the Kai Winged Dragon flew, nearby flying boats naturally kept their distance. Anyone who stayed in Huyang City long enough knew the extraordinary origins of this Kai Winged Dragon. Inside the Kai Winged Dragon, a robust woman in armor was being escorted, crowned with 4 purple horns that resembled a tiara, her purple eyes burning with purple flames. Those who had lived long in Huyang could recognize her as a member of one of Huyang City's top families, the Moli clan, based on her appearance. Finally back in Huyang City, a woman with a fluffy tail sighed alongside her. Out in the wilderness, I'm always worried about being attacked by powerful exotic beasts. Huyang City is so much more reassuring. Dior Rome, with senior brother Gaowu here, what's there to be afraid of? The robust woman said, looking over to a figure not far away. The figure, sculpted as if from metal, appeared quite ordinary, but his formidable reputation had already begun to spread. As the favorite disciple of Moli Xiao, the supreme commander of the Huyang Legion, Gaowu Shui had achieved the tenfold realm of true god of void space at a young age. Given his profound accumulation, everyone believed he could become an eternal true god at any moment. In the wilderness, one cannot afford to be complacent, Gaowu Shui, who seemed cold but was actually mild-mannered, said. One must always be cautious and alert. Otherwise, by the time you fall into a trap set by an eternal exotic beast, it's too late to escape. There's never been a mistake with senior brother Gaowu leading the team, the robust woman said, clearly trusting senior brother Gaowu immensely. Sister Feiyun, I know just how formidable your senior brother Gaowu is, the fuzzy-tailed woman said teasingly. Gaowu Shui suddenly started, and looked outside. Commanding the mechanical stream treasure, Kai Winged Dragon, his will was also the will of the entire Kai Winged Dragon. With the help of the Kai Winged Dragon, his senses were extremely sharp. He could detect the presence of eternal exotic beasts from far away while in the wilderness. At this moment, he sensed the presence of Luo Feng not far away. Luo Feng, moving about with the power of an eternal true god, naturally did not conceal his aura to the point of absolute perfection. Instead, like a normal eternal true god, he let out a slight hint of his presence. As for Morosa, he had disguised himself to appear as a true god of void space level, quite inconspicuous. Senior brother Gaowu, what's wrong? The robust woman and the fuzzy-tailed woman both turned to Gaowu Shui. There is a stranger who is an eternal true god, Gaowu Shui said seriously as he looked at Luo Feng flying towards the east city gate in the distance. It's that man with the dark golden horns. A strange eternal true god. The two women's expressions changed slightly, looking into the distance. They were well aware that in Huyang City, no matter how profound one's family background was, it was ultimately the terrifying eternal true gods who decided the order of the city. One must be perceptive, otherwise, inadvertently provoking an eternal true god might result in a silent death. Even the city owner's mansion would find it difficult to identify the murderer. Officials were unwilling to probe too much into matters involving eternal true gods because the highest level of martial power in Huyang City was at the eternal true god level. Among the 3 major cities of Zhujiang Primal Chaos Prefecture, our Huyang City has the most number of eternal true gods, Gaowu Shui said solemnly. And today, one more has been added. Zhujiang City is the place where Marquis Zhujiang resides. Most eternal true gods do not like to cultivate and live under the watchful eye of the primal chaos overlord. After all, it's not pleasant to have a terrifying being looming over your head, the fuzzy-tailed woman said with a laugh. Huyang City, as a bustling trade city, attracts powerful individuals from various countries and forces, and so we have a larger number of eternal true gods. As the offspring of major clans, they strutted around inside Huyang City. But what they feared the most were the strange eternal true gods. Strange signified the unknown. One might just be passing through Huyang City, casually slaughter a few major clan offspring, and then leave. There would be no way to trace them. Luo Feng, Morosa, and Moyu who had already entered the city and were flying within the city. What a huge city, Morosa commented as they entered the city. At a glance, he felt the clouds and mist in the distance were endless, with mountains undulating and towering buildings even larger than the mountains. Luo Feng, however, was sensing the flow of the city's aura and nodded. The great formation of Huyang City is operational, creating a spatial separation. To enter or leave the city, one must go through the city gates. The high skies above are sealed off. Morosa looked up at the high sky and nodded. The spatial seal is quite strong. Within the whole of Huyang City, one can no longer traverse through the void. Inside Huyang City, we can only fly slowly and cannot traverse through the void. That's why if someone commits a crime and causes trouble, they can't escape quickly and are easily caught by the Huyang guards. Inside Huyang City, we have to fly slowly, but the Huyang guards and Huyang's 10 great legions can traverse through the void, Moyu who also said. Luo Feng grinned. It might sound frightening, but eternal true gods who could create universes in a thought had their ways to cope. Moyu who, do you know where one can purchase housing? Luo Feng inquired. I'll show you the way, Moyu who exclaimed excitedly. Having managed to return to Huyang City alive with the treasures, his mood was extremely delightful. Whoosh! Unable to traverse through the void, Luo Feng and the others flew for a while before arriving at a grand and towering palace. This palace was divided into 3 levels, covering a vast area. At the entrance of the first-level palace, numerous true gods were coming and going. Only a few figures could be seen entering and exiting the second-level palace, while the top layer was entirely silent. In Huyang City, all purchases of residences are handled in this Primal Chaos Hall, Moyu who explained. The first floor of the Primal Chaos Hall is for serving true gods. True gods can apply for a residence for free but must pay a living fee of 1 Primal Chaos Crystal each era. Luo Feng nodded. Huyang City was vast, and providing each true god with a small cave mansion was quite easy. The cumulative income from the numerous true gods paying 1 Primal Chaos Crystal each era was substantial. The fees collected by the city owner's mansion were partly to maintain the operation of the entire city, such as supporting the 10 great legions, the Huyang guards, maintaining numerous officials, and formation upkeep. Other parts were tributes to the Marquis of Zhujiang and the Monarch of Yu Country. The Monarch of Yu Country, high and mighty, acquired a massive amount of resources, many of which originated from the countless true gods. The second floor of the Primal Chaos Hall is for serving true gods of void space level, who must purchase their residences, Moyu who continued. The third floor of the Primal Chaos Hall is for serving eternal true gods, Moyu who added. Luo Feng nodded and led Morosa and Moyu who directly towards the palace's top 3rd floor. The 3rd floor of the Primal Chaos Hall was majestic and spacious. As the 3 figures of Luo Feng, Morosa, and Moyu who flew inside, 2 officials immediately appeared. Their gaze was fervent as they looked at Luo Feng, and their demeanor was highly respectful. We greet the Divine Monarch, the 2 officials said cordially. To the officials, Morosa, perfectly concealing his aura, and Moyu who seemed to be just 2 servants of the eternal true God. I plan to stay in Huyang City for a while and need a place to stay, Luo Feng stated. Divine Monarch, the chubby official explained, the dwellings we prepare for eternal true gods in Huyang City are all located near the Primal Chaos ruins in the surrounding ring area. There, sensing the Primal Chaos laws is the clearest. The reason why large cities attract eternal true gods is precisely because of the proximity to the Primal Chaos ruins, where sensing the Primal Chaos laws is most distinct. Naturally, eternal true gods are willing to reside there. Primal Chaos ruins also condense a large amount of Primal Chaos crystals and Primal Chaos stones. The Primal Chaos crystals and Primal Chaos stones of the land of origin all originate from these Primal Chaos ruins. Please look, Divine Monarch, there are over 10,000 cave mansions to choose from in the ring area of the Primal Chaos ruins, said the chubby official as a three-dimensional model of Huyang City materialized in the hall, with a large number of cave mansions marked on the ring area. If you find a single cave mansion too small, you can even purchase several to form a super-large cave mansion, the chubby official said with a smile. Many large clans in Huyang City have purchased cave mansions here. I'll take this one. Luo Feng chose a relatively small cave mansion, instantly seeing all the data information about it. The cave mansion was 200,000 kilometers long and wide, with a small mountain inside rising 128,000 kilometers high, some elegant lakes and rivers, and over 1,000 pavilions and palaces. Beneath the cave mansion, there was a large underground palace. The underground palace was 100,000 kilometers in length and width, filled with intricate mechanisms, and enveloped in layers of formations, an ideal place for secluded cultivation. This cave mansion is rather small. It might feel a bit cramped for an eternal true god when revealing their true body to cultivate secret techniques, the chubby official reminded. It's enough, Luo Feng said with a smile. Eternal true gods do indeed require sufficient open space when revealing their true body to cultivate secret techniques. But his godly body's size was at will, and there would be no impact when cultivating in a small form. And if he were to expand fully? Even the largest cave mansion would feel too small. This Primal Chaos Armor number 913 cave mansion has a purchase cost of 500 cosmic sand, said the leaner official. Luo Feng immediately waved his hand, and exactly 500 cosmic sand floated into view on one side. He chose a smaller cave mansion because the cosmic sand left by Hei Duomo was rather limited. A too large cave mansion would be unaffordable. Of course, his size was adjustable at will, and since only he and Morosa would be residing there, there was no need for it to be too large. Please inform us of your esteemed name, Divine Monarch, the leaner official asked. Luo Feng replied, using a false name to prevent the Purple Moon ancestor from leaking his information. All information has been recorded, the leaner official said, handing a command token to Luo Feng. From this moment on, this Primal Chaos Armor number 913 cave mansion belongs to the Divine Monarch. Good, Luo Feng said, satisfied as he took the command token and turned to leave with Morosa and Mo Yu-hu. The two officials respectfully escorted the eternal true god to the Great Hall's doorway, watching them fly away. Report to the city owner's mansion quickly, urged the chubby official. Such eternal true gods who purchase residences openly and above board generally have no ill intent, the leaner official said as he reported the detailed information as well. After flying out of the Primal Chaos Hall, Mo Yu-hu, you've been troubled leading the way these past few days. If you run into trouble in the future, you can communicate with me, Luo Feng said to Mo Yu-hu with a smile, giving him a communication imprint at the same time. Mo Yu-hu was both shocked and delighted. It is my honor to serve the Supreme. He didn't kill me or rob my treasures. Merely for leading the way, he even gave me a chance to seek help. The difference between one eternal true god and another is truly huge. Mo Yu-hu secretly marveled, then piloted his flying boat towards his home. I should go home and see if those three little rascals have caused any trouble. Thinking of his three children, Mo Yu-hu's heart swelled with joy. Returning with treasures, his children's fate would also change. Asterisk. Having seen the gigantic model of Huyang City when they were purchasing the cave mansion, Luo Feng and his company already knew the exact location. They flew directly towards it. Master, if you called Luo He, what should I be called? Morosa transmitted telepathically. You'll be called Luo Sa. Luo Feng replied with a telepathic transmission. Got it. Morosa nodded. Not far from the Primal Chaos Hall to the Primal Chaos Ruins, Luo Feng and Morosa flew for a while before arriving in front of the cave mansion. Here we are, Luo Feng remarked, looking at the cave mansion ahead of them, admiring the elegant mountain ranges that rose over 100,000 kilometers high, complete with lakes and waterfalls. A 20,000 kilometers squared cave mansion was indeed considered rather small for an eternal true god. With the command token in hand, Luo Feng easily refined it. The secret patterns imprinted on the underground palace of the cave mansion lit up, and instantly formations emerged one by one, combining and evolving, drawing in dense mists of power of heaven and earth to cloak the entire cave mansion in clouds and mist. The power of these formations is not negligible. Even eternal true gods would need to spend some time to break in forcibly. Luophone was quite pleased. Selling for 500 cosmic sand, how could the formations be weak? Morosa couldn't help but comment, as his own pocket money was just a bit over 100 cosmic sand. What's for sale is the location, a position near the primal chaos ruins. The formations are a free gift. After Luophone assimilated the entire cave mansion's formation, he condensed a command token and handed it to Morosa. This command token is for you. With this, you can freely enter and exit the cave mansion. Morosa took it. Let's take a good look at this cave mansion. Luophone replied, using a false name to prevent the Purple Moon ancestor from leaking his information. All information has been recorded, the Lena official said, handing a command token to Luophone. From this moment on, this primal chaos armor number 913 cave mansion belongs to the Divine Monarch. Good, Luophone said, satisfied as he took the command token and turned to leave with Morosa and Moyu. The two officials respectfully escorted the eternal true god to the Great Hall's doorway, watching them fly away. Report to the city owner's mansion quickly, urged the chubby official. Such eternal true gods who purchase residences openly and above board generally have no ill intent, the Lena official said as he reported the detailed information as well. After flying out of the primal chaos hall, Moyu, you've been troubled leading the way these past few days. If you run into trouble in the future, you can communicate with me, Luophone said to Moyu with a smile, giving him a communication imprint at the same time. Moyu was both shocked and delighted. It is my honor to serve the Supreme. He didn't kill me or rob my treasures. Merely for leading the way, he even gave me a chance to seek help. The difference between one eternal true god and another is truly huge. Moyu secretly marveled, then piloted his flying boat towards his home. I should go home and see if those three little rascals have caused any trouble. Thinking of his three children, Moyu's heart swelled with joy. Returning with treasures, his children's fate would also change. Having seen the gigantic model of Huyang City when they were purchasing the cave mansion, Luophone and his company already knew the exact location. They flew directly towards it. Master, if you called Luohi, what should I be called? Morosa transmitted telepathically. You'll be called Luosa. Luophone replied with a telepathic transmission. Got it. Morosa nodded. Not far from the Primal Chaos Hall to the Primal Chaos Ruins, Luophone and Morosa flew for a while before arriving in front of the cave mansion. Here we are, Luophone remarked, looking at the cave mansion ahead of them, admiring the elegant mountain ranges that rose over 100,000 kilometers high, complete with lakes and waterfalls. A 20,000 kilometer squared cave mansion was indeed considered rather small for an eternal true god. With the command token in hand, Luophone easily refined it. The secret patterns imprinted on the underground palace of the cave mansion lit up, and instantly formations emerged one by one, combining and evolving, drawing in dense mists of power of heaven and earth to cloak the entire cave mansion in clouds and mist. The power of these formations is not negligible. Even eternal true gods would need to spend some time to break in forcibly. Luophone was quite pleased. Selling for 500 cosmic sand, how could the formations be weak? Morosa couldn't help but comment, as his own pocket money was just a bit over 100 cosmic sand. What's for sale is the location, a position near the primal chaos ruins. The formations are a free gift. After Luophone assimilated the entire cave mansion's formation, he condensed a command token and handed it to Morosa. This command token is for you. With this, you can freely enter and exit the cave mansion. Morosa took it. Let's take a good look at this cave mansion. Luophone and Morosa entered through the main gate of the cave mansion and leisurely toured the place. With their flying speed, naturally, they could blink from one end of the mansion to the other, quickly finishing the tour. The master and servant reached the mountaintop and celebrated together with a drink. From now on, we will temporarily reside in Huyang City, Luo Feng said with a smile as he drank. This will be our first dwelling place since arriving in the land of origin. Morosa was also very fond of the cave mansion. Luo Feng looked around and said, out of the 1,000 buildings within this mansion, choose any one as your residence, and I'll take the main building. Morosa drank his exquisite wine with great pleasure. It was a fine drink brought over from the primordial cosmos, dwindling with each sip. He looked down from above and nodded. Then I choose the secondary building not far from the main building. I have to protect my master well. Ha ha ha, I'm relying on your protection. Luo Feng said, while also sensing the laws of primal chaos. Rumbling tilde tilde tilde. The distance was too close, right next to their own mansion, the primal chaos laws manifested on their own. He could even see with his naked eyes the substantial primal chaos laws appearing next to the primal chaos ruins. Ever since I came to the land of origin, I found the sensing of the primal chaos laws to be very clear, Luo Feng thought. Now living next to the primal chaos ruins, it's like watching the laws manifest right before my eyes at close range. This was a far better cultivation environment than that of the primordial cosmos region. Accustomed to the incredibly vague environment of the primordial cosmos, Luo Feng was so moved that he was almost in tears. With such an environment, I don't need any treasures, just time to comprehend, and I am confident that I can understand the laws of primal chaos. Luo Feng was confident. Comprehending the laws of primal chaos in such an environment would not be as difficult as sensing the source of law in the primordial cosmos region. Master, Morosa was drinking wine and chatting with Luo Feng when suddenly, Luo Feng sat there and entered a state of cultivation. Starting cultivation already? Morosa blinked, stealing a glance at the neighboring primal chaos ruins. I don't feel anything about these so-called primal chaos ruins. He was born from the path of destruction, needing only to eat, drink, and have enough time and energy to grow, and he could reach the pinnacle. Naturally, he could not understand Luo Feng's emotions at the moment. The master needs to cultivate hard. Only when he is strong enough can he protect me in the future. Morosa thought. The thought of only the sector beast of Qianmu Kingdom surviving among the many sector beasts born throughout the 3,000 years of history in the primordial cosmos region put him under a lot of pressure. At the moment, within the massive cave mansion number 3 of primal chaos armor, this mansion belonged to the Moli clan. The middle-aged man with 4 purple curved horns on his head, Moli Meng, was looking at a piece of information that just appeared. A strange eternal true god has come to Huyang City and purchased the Primal Chaos Armor 913 cave mansion. His name is Luo He. Besides that, there is no record of any information about him. Moli Meng speculated, is he an eternal true god who has recently made a breakthrough? Or has he been sent by an external force? As a bustling trade city on the frontier, Huyang City was indeed a mix of all sorts. Moli Meng could not afford to take any piece of information about any eternal true god lightly. Father, said a robust woman clad in armor as she strode in. Feiyun, Moli Meng smiled at his daughter, back from the hunt. Moli Feiyun said, the hunt is a small matter, father. When I returned to Huyang City, I discovered a strange eternal true god not in the intelligence you gave me. He has black hair, and also a pair of dark golden pointed horns. Is it him? Moli Meng pulled up the information he had been looking at just before. Moli Feiyun looked at the abundant information in the report and nodded, yes, that's him. His name is originally Luo He. The city owner's mansion rated his power level as grade D. Is it that low? The city owner's mansion paid close attention to every eternal true god, collecting all related information, and would assign a power level ranking. The rankings went from high to low as grade A, B, C, and D. Such information would be reported to the high-ranking core members immediately. As one of the high-ranking members of Huyang City, Moli Meng held most of the city's profound secrets. Of course, that didn't include those with hostile intentions who had intentionally infiltrated, as they weren't so easy to find. The official records don't have any past information about him, so he's temporarily rated as grade D, Moli Meng said. The entire official records of Yu Kingdom don't have any past information about him. Moli Feiyun was surprised. None. Moli Meng said, Since he has openly bought a mansion, he probably bears no ill will. He might indeed be an eternal true god who has just broken through. Such newly emerged eternal true gods, without undergoing a lot of experience, usually aren't too strong, possibly only at the third or fourth realms of eternal true gods, so it's only proper to provisionally rate him as grade D. However, even if it is grade D, you still keep your distance from him. Molly Meng reminded his daughter. I understand, Molly Feiyun promptly responded obediently. Luo Feng was immersed in comprehension, and when he stopped, he found that the sky had already darkened, and Morosa was sitting there idly, bored to death. Master, you awake? Morosa showed a look of joy. While I was cultivating, you just sat here like a fool. Luo Feng said. Why didn't you go take a stroll around within Huyang City? I was only comprehending the laws, not turning into an idiot. If an outsider touched the formation of the cave mansion, I would have immediately interrupted my comprehension. With an ingratiating tone, Morosa said, enjoying food and entertainment can be done at any time, but when Master is cultivating, I must guard diligently, as it is the most important matter. Ha ha, well said. Luo Feng stood up. All right, let's go out for a bit and sell that blue-purple blood crystal flower. Master, which establishment are you planning to sell it to? Morosa also stood up. Of course, the Flame Wind Pavilion. Luo Feng said, and right away the two of them had left the house. Moments later, Luo Feng and Morosa were already looking at the distant and majestic Flame Wind Pavilion from afar. Among the countless buildings in Huyang City, the main building of the Flame Wind Pavilion was second in height only to the city owner's mansion. The safest place in the entire Huyang City is this Flame Wind Pavilion, Luo Feng said. Even if Huyang City were to be destroyed, this Flame Wind Pavilion would remain unscathed. Oh! Morosa was amazed, as his understanding of the land of origin came from Luo Feng. The Flame Wind Pavilion represents the Flame Wind Ancient Country, Luo Feng said. Inside the Flame Wind Ancient Country, some powerful forces have come together to establish the Flame Wind Pavilion, and their business spans across most of the land of origin. Even in wars between divine kingdoms, they wouldn't dare to touch the Flame Wind Pavilion. Because to do so would be to disgrace the Flame Wind Ancient Country, Luo Feng laughed. The consequences would be severe. Morosa nodded in realization, what a strong background. No matter the treasures, they can buy and they can sell. Luo Feng said. They are the safest trading partners. This blue-purple blood crystal flower was enough to make some eternal true gods green with envy and go insane. To ensure a stable transaction, Luo Feng did not hesitate to choose trading with the Flame Wind Pavilion. The Flame Wind Pavilion covered a vast area with many buildings, and the main building particularly catered to guests from all directions. Whoosh! Upon arriving at the entrance of the main building, Luo Feng and Morosa were immediately met by an attendant who came forward to greet them. Divine Monarch, please come inside. The attendant enthusiastically led them into a private hall. Divine Monarch, this is Chunmi wine from the Flame Wind Ancient Country, please have a taste. The attendant poured the wine, a cup of which would be worth several primal chaos crystals in the Flame Wind Ancient Country and was simply not available for purchase in Huyang City. Chunmi wine. Luo Feng picked up a cup, took a sip, and felt a light, refreshing taste spreading through his soul and consciousness. Let's talk business. I'm here to sell a blue-purple blood crystal flower, Luo Feng said, turning his hand and placing a wooden box on the long table in front of him. Blue-purple blood crystal flower. The attendant was somewhat surprised. Despite being used to catering to eternal true gods, he was still a bit shocked. He immediately opened the wooden box and saw a seemingly ordinary blue-purple blood crystal flower. Within the Flame Wind Pavilion, a formation activated, enveloping the blue-purple blood crystal flower in light, and instantly completing the appraisal. This blue-purple blood crystal flower is fully mature, well harvested and preserved, and of superior quality. Based on the current market value, the Flame Wind Pavilion is willing to buy it for 120,000 cosmic sands, said the attendant. How does that sound to the Divine Monarch? Okay, Luo Feng readily nodded in agreement. He was well aware of the Flame Wind Pavilion's rules, that for treasures valued below 10 million cosmic sand, bargaining was generally not entertained. For various exotic treasures from heaven and earth, the Flame Wind Ancient Country's headquarters had clear pricing for different levels, and its branches had no authority to adjust them. Then this blue-purple blood crystal flower belongs to my Flame Wind Pavilion. The attendant repositioned the blue-purple blood crystal flower, and at the same time, a cyan jade vial appeared out of thin air on the table. The attendant handed the cyan jade vial to Luo Feng. Divine Monarch, there are 120,000 cosmic sand inside. Please verify. Luo Feng took the vial and with a brief sensation confirmed it was correct. The transaction is settled, the attendant said with a smile. Divine Monarch, is there anything else I can do for you? I also need to purchase some artifact refining materials. Here's the material list, Luo Feng said, handing over a prepared list to the other party. The total cost for the materials is 100,000 cosmic sand. The majority of the cosmic sand earned from selling the blue-purple blood crystal flower would be spent. 100,000 cosmic sand to buy all these materials. The attendant was astonished. Most of these materials are fairly common. If we go by the list, that would be a very large quantity. We might need to move entire mountains for some materials. Are you sure you want to spend all 100,000 cosmic sand on these? Can the Flame Wind Pavilion gather them all? Luo Feng asked. The attendant confidently smiled. No need to worry about that, even if it's 100 times or 1,000 times more, the Flame Wind Pavilion can summon them from other places. As for your needs, we have ample stock in our storerooms. It will be delivered in the time it takes to drink a cup of wine. Good, then please arrange it quickly, Luo Feng nodded. Besides purchasing these materials, I would also like to apply to join the Flame Wind Pavilion's Dark Hall. The attendant smiled slightly. Once you join the Dark Hall of our Flame Wind Pavilion, you can actively post tasks, accept tasks, and purchase intelligence. As an eternal true god, you can join the Dark Hall without review or fees. As an organization that spans most of the land of origin. Of course, Flame Wind Pavilion engages in the business of intelligence, as well as offering bounties for tasks. These kinds of businesses are all undertaken in the name of the Dark Hall. The more clients the Dark Hall has, the better, so the threshold to enter is very low. One can join the Dark Hall with sufficient strength or wealth. Divine Monarch will need a code name within the Dark Hall, the attendant said. After thinking for a moment, Luo Feng replied, call me Blades Man. All right, your application has been successful. The attendant flipped his hand and passed a transmission token to Luo Feng. This is the Dark Hall's transmission order. With it, you can contact the Dark Hall within large cities. Whether it's purchasing intelligence, posting or accepting tasks, everything can be done through this transmission token. If the transmission token is lost or damaged, you can also have it reissued at the Flame Wind Pavilion. Luo Feng took the Dark Hall's transmission order, which was fixed to contact only the Dark Hall. A set of basic intelligence on the various countries of the land of origin. Luo Feng decided to try purchasing intelligence first. Divine Monarch, as you've just joined the Dark Hall and being an eternal true god, you have a sum of 1,000 cosmic sand available on credit, which must be repaid within 1 era, otherwise, the penalty will be 10 times the outstanding amount, the attendant reminded. The intelligence I'm purchasing costs 10 cosmic sand, I'll pay you first, Luo Feng paid straight away. At the same time, he was reviewing the piece of intelligence just sent through the Dark Hall's transmission order. It was a basic report on the countries of the land of origin, including maps, cities, and other fundamental information. Naturally, Luo Feng was most interested in the intelligence about the Shi Kingdom. Shi Kingdom, a total of 5 masters. This information was rightfully basic intelligence, merely stating a total of 5 masters regarding the Shi Kingdom's masters. As for the godly king-level beings, what powers they had, what secret treasures they possessed, there was not a single record. Luo Feng's expression changed slightly. The Shi Kingdom has 5 masters now? When Master Mountain Sitting Guest fled to the Universe Ocean, there were only 3 masters in the Shi Kingdom. Luo Feng thought, the Yu Kingdom hasn't changed much, still with 5 godly kings. During the time Master fled, the Shi Kingdom has grown stronger. Luo Feng accepted this quite naturally. Mountain Sitting Guest had fled the land of origin, and in the primordial cosmos, he had gone through an entire reincarnation era, even nurturing an outstanding individual like Luo Feng. With the aggressive nature of the Shi kingdom, it was natural for changes to occur over such a long period. 3 masters? 5 masters? For Luo Feng, who was still just an eternal true god, there wasn't much of a difference. He wasn't at the godly king level, so he couldn't get involved at all. The Dark Hall still has a large number of bounties. Divine monarchs can take a look as well, said the attendant. Luo Feng nodded. He effortlessly saw numerous bounty tasks, including protection duties, hiring tasks, assassination tasks, and so on. There's a bounty to kill the highest commander of the Huyang Legion, Mo Xiao. Luo Feng was surprised to see this task. The highest commander of Huyang's 10 great legions was one of the most powerful rulers in the entire Huyang city. Even the city lord's power might not necessarily surpass that of this highest commander. Yet, there was a bounty in the Flame Wind Association's Dark Hall. As long as there's a client brave enough to issue a task, our Flame Wind Pavilion will dare to place a bounty, the attendant said with a smile. Even if it's a godly king, our Flame Wind Pavilion will post a bounty just the same. The Flame Wind Pavilion indeed has such strength, Luo Feng nodded. Huh. Suddenly, a black jade vial appeared out of nowhere, which the attendant handed to Luo Feng. Divine monarch, all the artifact refining materials you requested are here, please inspect them. After Luo Feng took it, he saw a massive pile of materials heaped like a mountain. With a single thought, he checked everything thoroughly. There's nothing missing, only extra. Luo Feng was very satisfied. With some common materials, we only add more, said the attendant. Luo Feng nodded, then got up and instructed Morosa, let's go. The attendant personally saw Luo Feng out. Inside one of the small buildings of the Flame Wind Pavilion, a figure made of grey fog was leisurely browsing through one piece of information after another when suddenly a burly man walked in. Pavilion Master, the eyes of the figure of grey fog, which were made of mist, looked towards the burly figure. As the Pavilion Master, you leave all matters of the Flame Wind Pavilion to me, an old fellow, to handle entirely by myself. Second uncle, I've troubled you, the burly man immediately said with a smile. What I regret most now is agreeing to the ancestor, always following and protecting you. Who would have thought that after leaving the Flame Wind ancient country, you'd wander for over 1,000 eras, and still not return, said the figure of grey fog. When do you plan on returning to the clan? I'm starting to miss home. I plan to break through to the primal chaos realm before going back, said the burly man. You, as part of Emperor Chu's lineage and with noble blood, haven't cultivated the bloodline cultivation method but pursued understanding of the laws. I knew of your ambition then, the figure of grey fog remarked. You initially became a true god with unlimited godly bodies without relying on bloodline, and every step you take will be difficult. Actually, our clan's elders usually cultivate their bloodlines first, and only when they hit a bottleneck do they turn to understand the laws. The burly man shook his head, a hint of disdain in his eyes. After taking the straightforward path for countless years and then turning to the difficult road, how many can succeed? They are all mediocre. The figure of grey fog nodded in approval. If you continue along the path of the laws and become a primal chaos overlord, after you return, the clan will certainly train you with all their resources. Because every godly king on the land of origin had broken through by understanding the laws. Becoming a primal chaos overlord is very difficult. The burly figure nodded. The primal chaos laws are much too arcane. He was born on the land of origin, so from a young age, he had a crystal clear sense of various laws. Therefore, he felt that the farther he went, the more difficult it became. Luo Feng was different. In the era of the primordial cosmos, sensing the laws was extremely vague. So when he arrived at the land of origin, Luo Feng was overjoyed. He found the understanding of the primal chaos laws to be rapidly improving. The figure of grey fog saw a new piece of information that had just appeared before him, glanced at it, and then told the burly figure beside him, Pavilion Master, the new eternal true god has come to Huyang City and has also become a client of our Dark Hall, with the code name, Bladesman. Oh, I see, the burly figure nodded. Both of them didn't pay much attention. As descendants of Emperor Chu's lineage from the Flame Wind ancient country, they were entitled to overlook most eternal true gods in Huyang City. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Luo Feng and Morosa returned to the cave mansion. I will go into reclusive training for some time. You are free to do as you please, Luo Feng instructed. Remember, don't cause any trouble for me. Don't worry, Master. Morosa immediately responded enthusiastically. Only then did Luo Feng turn and enter the underground grand hall of the cave mansion. As soon as he entered, the multi-layered mechanisms of the grand hall shut down, and formations were sealed off. This underground grand hall was specifically used for cultivation in solitude, but Luo Feng still found it too small. With a wave of his hand, he brought out the Star Tower. Whoosh! Luo Feng entered the Star Tower. The Star Tower itself contained vast space, allowing Luo Feng to cultivate to his heart's content without worrying about damaging a single thing. Begin to cultivate the Primal Chaos Great Strength diagram. Luo Feng sat cross-legged and began his first secluded training on the land of origin. This episode ends here.